Well, welcome to Flight Lines, the stories behind the stories. And my guest this morning is Hillary Hathaway, who's a candidate for the district, is it four?
District 4, yes, sir.
District four of our school district. And I've known Hillary for quite a long time. We're going to go through some of the things that she feels is important. So thank you for taking the time to be here.
Thanks for having me.
Well, it's always a pleasure to be with people you like to be with and that you know. And we're going to start out by, what was the trigger that got you involved in wanting to be in education? You started out as a teacher, if I'm not.
I did. And so I've always believed that education changes lives, right? So as a student that walked the halls through Lake Placid Elementary School, Lake Placid Middle School, Lake Placid High School, I had so many great educators and leaders that poured into me as a child. And I continued and I was able to be a first generation college student in my family and go off to college and then come back and be hired by my very own biology teacher, who then poured into me as an educator and then an administrator
Who's
here in
that?
Highlands County. Tony Stivender.
Oh, one of my heroes,
Yes,
Tony.
one of the
Yes.
greats, absolutely. And so just getting into education, knowing that I wanted to serve our community and serve our students and instill in young people that possibilities are endless. It doesn't matter where you come from, what kind of background you had. Education is the key
Sure.
to building a better life and future for you and your
So what did
family.
you wind up teaching? What did you start with?
I started at Sebring High as a long-term substitute. I taught freshman English for a little bit. And then when I was hired as a full-time teacher, I taught American history and one of the IB classes, Informational Technology in a Global Society. Very, very tough class to teach. Then I later moved to Lake Placid and was the career co-op teacher and internship teacher, and among a lot of other things
Yeah,
there.
sure.
Yeah.
Well, I have an affinity towards Lake Placid. I mean, that's where I started.
Yeah.
Um, when I was there, when I came in 1998, I think there were only 30 of us,
Wow.
and we did a lot together after school and that sort of, but when everything kind of expanded and that sort of thing, um, some of the dynamics changed. But
Right.
so you were a teacher, and then you decided to had the opportunity to get into administration. How did that happen?
Yeah, that was an interesting move. Probably about my fifth year of teaching, I started to consider administration, and I took a couple of opportunities, and I thought, oh no, I don't think this is for me. And then some of the greats, I got connected with Ann Lindsay
Hmm.
and Tony Stivender continued to pour into me, and they just both really encouraged
Oh,
me
they are
to
wonderful women.
take
Yes.
every opportunity. So I pursued my ed leadership degree because that's the first step in becoming a leader. But before that, I was an avid coordinator, so I got kind of a taste of
Yeah.
what it was like to pour into programs and build systems and build something different for the students. And I thought I can do this.
Sure.
So as those instrumental role models and mentors continued to pour in me, I just continued to grow as a leader, even though I wasn't a leader yet, an educational teacher leader, and move into the different leadership positions that I later held.
Well, you have two people, Tony and Ann, that they've had quite an impact on me too. When I was first working as a career and tech ed coordinator for the district, Ann was my direct supervisor, and boy, I loved working for her. She empowered people instead of encumbered them. And there have been administrators that I've been associated with that more encumbered a person than empowered them or inspired them. And we know the difference.
Absolutely.
Um, and Tony was the same way. Um, I'm gonna share a story about Tony that I haven't shared publicly um, with other teachers. But when I was at Lake Placid, and I think it was my second term around as being the shop teacher, um, I had, with the aerospace program, technically I had 11 preps, with all the different levels of the different courses. I had 3 or 4 different levels in aerospace, and same thing with the shop. Um, and it was at a time when our planning periods were getting eaten up by, well, you got to monitor a study hall, and you got to do this, and you got
Yep,
to
I
do that.
remember those days.
Yeah,
Stay with
and
you.
I went to her and I said, "Hey, look, I need some help here. Can you consider taking my study hall?" And because we had like 4 or 5 other teachers in there at the same time, it wasn't like it was one teacher dependent. I said, "Can I pull out of the study hall for that period and use it to work on the machines and do what needs to be done? They need to be repaired and overhauled and all the other stuff." And she said, "Well, that wouldn't be fair to everybody else." They said, "Look, I got 10, 11 preps." She says, "Well, yeah, there's other people that have a lot of preps." I said, "Who?" She says, "The band teacher." I said, "Well, okay, but a tuba is not going to cut off your fingers, so
That's right.
it's pretty, and she didn't give me the extra period, but I said to her, well, here's the other thing I'm going to do or not do. I'm not going to do any more lesson plans every week. I mean, how many times do you want me to tell you that I know how to run the table saw and what I'm going to do with the kids on the table saw? I mean, it's something I've done every year for the last 20 years, and not much has changed. And you've got copies of everything I've done already, so there's really not going to be much different. And then she said, okay. And that didn't get widely publicized because that would have created maybe a little revolt. But I mean,
Right.
but she was flexible enough to realize that I had a good reason for trying to manage my time a little better, other than, and I did do it anyway. I was there an hour and a half, 2 hours before school started, and I was there after school, as we all were.
Yes.
But yeah, Tony's been one of my great heroes.
Yeah.
So let's get back to the perspective of what what inspired you to run for the school board against an incumbent?
Yeah, that was a tough decision. I had moved away from Highlands County, not physically. I've always lived in Highlands County, born and raised here, multiple generations, all proud
Sure,
public school graduates. But it, as I continued to grow in my career and take on different opportunities to learn more about the schools, and learn more about how schools should operate, could operate, school finance, I really started looking into school business. Finance. So I took an opportunity to go to a neighboring district to serve there because, when you're on a trajectory of growth in your career, you continue to move up.
sure,
And so I had reached that principal position and I just wanted something more. I knew I wanted to move more into the school leadership at the district level. And you have to go where job opportunities are available.
sure.
So there was a job that came open in the neighboring county, and I applied on a whim, thinking I'm
Yeah,
going to go and see what happens. And
they hired you.
they took a chance on me. They saw something in me, just like Tony and Ann and all of the great leaders that have
Sure,
poured into me. Um, they saw something in me and took a chance on me and allowed me to come serve them for the last couple of years. And it was just a really great learning experience. But what I realized being away from Highlands County is that I really missed the people in Highlands County. I missed serving my local community. And so when I decided to resign from that school district, I really wasn't sure what my next step was. But I was going to finish out the school year there, finish out the budgeting year. And so I had some community leaders and some family friends come to me and say, with all of your history in education, especially in Highlands County schools, and knowing how they operate and how decisions at the district and school board level and those policies really affect the daily operations of our schools,
yeah.
we think you'd be a great voice and a strong leader and a strong advocate for teachers and
I couldn't
students
I
and
couldn't agree
families.
more. I mean, you bring a lot to the
Yeah.
table. And one of the things I'm interested in your perspective when you were over in Hardy County, because Hardy County is facing a lot of the same
Hmm.
fiscal issues that this district is.
Yes.
How, what were some of the things that you discovered over there that that you had to work through?
I have to hand it to the superintendent and the deputy superintendent over there. They were really, really purposeful in hearing the leaders that worked under them's voices. There was a lot of collaboration, a lot of meetings, just a lot of engaging with those that you serve. And so I saw them really dig into the problems and meet with the finance departments and all of the other departments to see what's going well, what's not going well, how can we streamline things, how can we make budget cuts to make sure that um, we're protecting our fund balance and protecting our
A
financial stability.
proactive approach to it.
Proactive,
Yeah.
absolutely. Because when I got there, they did have an insurance issue as well, where some of their claims came in higher than what
Yeah.
was expected, and so they had to infuse some money into their healthcare fund. And that was a tough thing that happened right when I was taking seat over there. And
Were
so
they self-insured like we
they
are?
that yes, they are still are. A lot of school districts are going that route now, but they really just dug in to be proactive and address the concerns with the budget and those types of other things before it became such a problem that it was negatively impacting the fund balance. And I just think I learned really a lot about proactive leadership
Yeah.
with my time over there.
Well, when a team comes together to face a problem collectively,
Hmm.
the results are always better than just being isolated and making a decision and saying you got to follow it.
Yes.
Yeah. Uh, so when you look at where we are and what you're going to be bringing to the school district as hopefully a successful candidate from my point of view,
Mm.
folks, I'm not pulling any punches here. I asked her here today because I wanted to find out more in depth and share that with all of you of where I think this very capable woman is. But what do you think needs to be addressed and how should it be addressed with our district?
Oh.
That's a loaded question.
Yeah, it is. Obviously, we hear a lot right now through the board meetings and just other local news sources and listening to the community members. Declining enrollment is a huge problem. It's not just here, it's everywhere. And when you look at the state's website, we're projected to continue to lose students.
Yeah,
We have a declining birth rate. The school voucher system has made it much more accessible for families to choose other options, and so that is a concern, and it's going to continue to be a concern. And so we, as a district, have to really come together and navigate those concerns and changes. I think as the enrollment continues to decline, so will school funding because the money follows the students now. And that's given a lot of families a lot of great opportunities. But I think it's really important to remember that public education is still, in my opinion, one of the best games in town because
sure.
we have so many different programs and so many different resources to offer students that are not available to homeschool or private school. And so I think just continuing to educate our public and educate our community on what we do have to offer and the strengths of our school is going to be really important moving forward.
And you look at our system that we have here. Um, And I'm going to share what I think after I ask you what it is. But what do you think our greatest resource for our school district is?
Our educators, hands down. It's the
Bingo, I
people,
agree with you.
it's the people that are in the classroom
Yeah,
doing the tough work every day. I have seen those men and women show up after just taking one on the chin day after day from students, from parents. We have a lot of great kids. We have a lot of great families that we serve, but we also have some difficult students.
sure.
We also have some difficult families. And sometimes those difficult situations just are so loud in the background that it takes away from all of the great things that are happening on a day-to-day basis. So I think that our educators, hands down, are our most valuable resource, and we have to find a way to treat them better. I know I know we support our teachers and we love our teachers and our educators and our support staff, but really showing them that respect as professionals and continuing to pour into them is extremely important to
Well,
me.
I think you hit it right on the head because I've been teaching in various venues for over 50 years. There hasn't been many things I haven't seen one shape or another, but the thing I miss the most is being in front of that group of young people every day, and I'll share another little story. And I reflected on this, and I was surprised when I really did the accounting of it. But um, being at Lake Placid, one of the advantages that I had, and I look at it as an advantage, not a disadvantage, I had, like in the shop program, I had 3 different levels of students in there at the same time in the same class. And so what I would do is to help life be easier for me, I would take the students that I had brought up over 3 or 4 years, and have them mentor the new folks that came in. And because of that, I look back in the 20 more years that I was actually in the shop. I probably wrote less than 10 referrals in that whole time because I didn't have to. The returning advanced kids would go to the kids who were maybe screwing up or messing around saying, hey, we don't do that in here.
Yeah.
So it was the leadership of the group that I empowered them to go ahead and take charge because I said there's only 3 non-negotiable rules when you come in here. Everything else will work out as a team. I said you wear your safety glasses all the time, you wear closed-toed shoes, and you don't mess around with these machines because they don't know whether they don't care whether it cuts a piece of wood or your fingers. It'll do equally as well, and they all bought into it. But the point I'm trying to make here is that as leaders, as hopefully you become a school board member and leader, it's empowering those people that you're accountable to
Absolutely.
to help them make their own way the right way.
Yes, and I love that you empowered the students in your classrooms to be leaders in their environment because that's really how I began my leadership journey is just being a leader on campus, supporting the teachers that were working with
Yeah.
me in any way that you possibly could, supporting student leadership programs, and then just being that leader without a title. And I think that's what you did for
Well,
students.
the other
That's so
thing was
important.
that I found, and I had a number of students tell me this over the years, is they really appreciated that opportunity
Mhm.
to be their own leader,
Yeah.
and I told them in the beginning, besides those 3 rules, I said, I'll never dress you down in front of the group. And I'll never lie to you, and I won't yell at you. And they kind of looked at me, and there were kids that had some problems, and I would take them. I was lucky enough to have another classroom right next to the shop, the drafting room, and I'd take them in there and say, hey, what's going on? This isn't you.
Yeah.
And then they'd open up, and it was always something outside the school or outside the classroom that they were trying to sort through. And I said, all right, we'll work it out. You sit in here, calm down. When you're ready, come on out. And once you've done it a couple times, and everybody else recognizes that, then the trust and the respect starts to build.
Yeah.
And I hope that's what we do as a school board group, as a team of school board members do, to realize that it's not a business as usual. It requires a different paradigm than we've been using.
Absolutely.
And changes have to be made, whether it's in the leadership of the school district or it's how we conduct ourselves, whatever it might be. We can't continue to do the same thing and expect a different result.
And I think I think exactly what you were just talking about, those one-on-one conversations, those small group meetings, really coming together and truly getting to the grit of the problem, or truly just seeing all sides of the
Yeah.
picture to have a whole picture understanding as we're working through the challenging times, because we are in challenging times and we're going to continue to face those for the next several years. So I think it's really important to have leaders that have that forethought and that want to be present in those meetings and in those conversations and want to pour in and have clear overall big picture solution, thinking about not just the here and now, but the long-term success of our schools and our district and our community.
Well, I think there's going to be a reckoning, for lack of a better way of describing it. And I wrote and did a podcast on this concept. Do we change by choice or we change by crisis? And I think, unfortunately, most of the time, we're forced to change by crisis rather than by choice or being proactive. Um, One of my pet peeves has been, how do people learn? And what's the best way for people to learn things? It's learning by doing. John Dewey said it 100 years ago. When you can engage the person who's trying to learn something with a hands-on kind of project-based approach, that they know what they're doing, they know what the outcome is, but they're engaged in it. I think we can do that with every course and curriculum we have, but unfortunately we're not.
Yeah.
I mean, look at the two programs that I helped develop here in the district that were very successful.
Yeah.
The Green Dragon Chair Company. Those kids ran that business.
Right.
All I did was empower them, show them what to do, and get out of their way. And then the same thing with the aerospace program. It's all project based. And you know, the folks would ask us, what are you doing there? Are you training pilots, mechanics? Kids are doing that, but we exposed them to their options and opportunities so they knew what was out there, and then gave them transferable skills that could be used in any profession.
Yeah.
You know, that's the essence of what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
I hope that our new leadership, as I hope it evolves on the school board level, realizes that we need to make some changes. You know, and again, folks, this is my personal opinion. There needs to be an inventory done of all the things above the classroom level and saying, okay, anything we're doing and who's in that position, are they adding value to what happens in that classroom? And if they're not, why are they there, or why are they not doing that? And what can they do to add value to that classroom? Because if they're not, why are they there?
Yeah, that's a great point. I couldn't agree more. It when you're talking about running a school district, serving in a school district, or on a school board, it's all about adding value to the classroom, because at the end of the day, the students and the families are our customers,
Yeah.
and that should be our main focus. And so when we're making decisions, and that's a tough one, because sometimes you are making business decisions as a school board member. However, every decision that you make as a business owner, per se, should always be tied back to, how does this best serve my customer? And so when you
Yeah.
think about the schools, our customers are our children, and they are our
Absolutely.
families. And so thinking about when you're making decisions on a policy or a program or any other aspect of the school system, I think it's really important to keep the student at the center of all of those
Well, not
decisions. And that
only that,
becomes difficult sometimes, but
yeah,
it's doable.
but not only that, the students and the parents,
Hmm.
you know, engage the stakeholders.
Absolutely. Have
Um,
town hall meetings, reach out, be out in the community, get their input before making those decisions.
you mentioned two people that I've loved, Tony and Ann. And one of the things I noticed, their leadership style, they weren't administrators. They were coaches. They spent time in the classroom. They spent time out and about, talking to people, listening to people, empowering people. You know, so I have to challenge the folks that are at the district level. How many times have you been outside of that building and gotten involved with the people who are delivering the product?
Yeah.
And if you haven't been, shame on you. Get out there and find out what's going on. You know,
That,
my little editorial. Sorry,
that
folks.
was one of my favorite things about being, especially an assistant principal, because you still had some time in your schedule and you could really, really get into those classrooms and be involved. Later, as a principal, it became more difficult, but um, we had a system in place, and so my deans and my AP, and when I was an AP and a principal, we really tried to make it to every classroom every week. And so we had a board that we would track that on. And Wow, it just was a great way to build relationships with not only your staff and your teachers, but the students. The students loved seeing the principal and the assistant principal and the deans in their classrooms. That's how you get to know the kids.
Yeah.
And so that's how you're going to get to know the community and the teachers at multiple schools. Like I know a lot of people at the schools that I served, but I'm looking forward to having opportunities to get out into more schools, into more school events, and build those connections and build that trust with more stakeholders to have an even broader
Well,
perspective of the voices.
I'm excited for you because again, folks, here's a young lady. I say that because I'm on the back half of things at this point. More than the back half, probably the last third or the last quarter. But anyway, um, I'm excited for what you bring to the table. I really am because you have you've paid your dues. You've invested yourself in a various types of places and things to do that have done nothing but enhance your skill set and perspective on things. And folks, that's not something you take lightly. We need people that have experience to know what the good and the less than good is and how to make that happen. And I firmly believe you are one of them, like Andy Tuck is also. Um, I'm really excited for you. I hope that your campaign is successful. Now I'm going to ask a question I asked of Andy and others. If you could wave a magic wand and make something happen in the district, what would it be?
I mean, there are a lot of things that
Oh, I
you
know.
would
I'm.
love to wave the magic wand on, right? But I think that if I could wave the magic wand on any one aspect, it would be open lines of communication and transparency. I mean, I know that there's so many other things, but I think that when we're talking about making decisions and we're talking about supporting families, supporting students, supporting educators, having that open and honest and clear communication, not just us to them, but them to us.
Sure.
I think sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes that's the component that's missing. And I feel
Yeah.
like that's really where I shine. I love to listen to people. I love to listen to stories. I love to listen to concerns. While I might not always be able to correct the issue or address the concern, because sometimes that's out of your realm of impact, still just giving people a voice,
Well,
letting them know you're there to listen and understand,
yeah.
and at least try to communicate those concerns to the people that can have an impact on them
It's
if it's
hard.
not
It's
me.
hard to make a good decision without all the information.
Absolutely.
And if we don't listen, if we don't make the effort to go out and find out what people are feeling, um, you just don't know if you're really hitting the mark where people need the help.
Absolutely.
Um, one last question. When you look at Highlands County, and you've had the experience to be over in Hardy County and other places, um, what do you feel are some of the strengths and the great things about Highlands County?
Um, I think Highlands County just has so much to offer. We're a strong community, a lot of generational families here that still are just good people. We
Yeah.
have a lot of good programs. We have a lot of good community organizations, a lot of people that just continue to pour back in to our community, whether that be at the student level or post-secondary level, or even just as like community um, I was just thinking of the leadership for Highlands. They're pouring into the adults in our
Yeah.
community to make them better
Leadership On
leaders.
is a great
Yes, it's
program.
great. And so I think that that's a huge strength for our district and our community, is knowing that we have all of these different entities, businesses that want to continue to pour in. And so I think it's just so important to engage with those different entities and continue to build and grow the programs in our schools, like your aerospace. That wouldn't have been possible without all of the community
Oh, absolutely.
support and different foundations that poured into that and business owners that poured into that. And so I would just love to see that continue. I think that's a huge strength.
Well,
Continue that.
one of the things I've discovered through the podcast, um, in the various people I've talked to and interviewed, and it's been varied. But there's been one common denominator amongst all, and it's the successes and the growth that we've had is all based on relationships.
Yes.
And if you have a community that we have in Highlands County of people who are, I would consider, quote, real people, not folks that are trying to put on airs or, put on some sort of shell or image, but they're really down to earth people. It's one of the great resources of what we have as a community is the relationships that everybody realizes we're going to get somewhere if we work together.
Yes, I
Yeah.
agree.
So,
I agree. Absolutely.
I'm so excited that we've had the time this morning to share
It's
some
great to
things.
catch up. Yeah.
Yeah. And thank you for being
Thank you
here.
so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
No,
Love all that you do for the community and for the kids.
well, it's been a lot of fun. And folks, thanks for tuning in today.
Thank you.
Leave a comment, put a like there, but even more importantly, subscribe to the podcast and to the website. There are three things we have. We have the podcast format on YouTube. We have our webpage, flightlines.com, and also we have a Facebook page. But we'd like to hear from all of you about what you'd like us to explore. If there's things we want to get back to or things we haven't gotten into, we're going to do it. So thanks for being with us. Have a great day, and God bless.